Same thing before the women's here a few moments ago, but it would almost be inappropriate for me to introduce Rabbi. The fact that there's so many people here is the greatest proof to the kasher that guys who've never met Rabbi Kalish feel just from listening to a Shuir to or 100, the connection people feel. And what I was, well, first of all, I actually should start by thanking our sponsors. One is anonymous, and then the other sponsor, I don't know if Rabbi knows, but Rabbi Ben Feld, sponsored on behalf of. We have a little bit of a Chabura WhatsApp group that's pretty much dedicated just to talking about some of Rabbi's Shuir. So he wanted us to dedicate it. Rabbi knows Rabbi Ben Feld and Rabbi Shuir Katz. So that's, I'm lucky enough to be in that group chat with them. But what I found over the last couple of years after, like I said, feeling like a Talmud of Rabbi, even though I never had the sliss of being in the yeshiva, it's not even about the Divrei Torah that you hear or the ideas as much as like the new way of seeing the world, the new language. Like the phrase that I've probably never used in my life until the last 2-3 years of like, I'm trying to be a more real person. I'm trying to be more, oh, that guy's very real. That's something that I know I'm always striving for, something I need personally to work on. And just the idea of seeing the world through the lens of looking for the best in everyone, seeing the best in everyone, seeing how wonderful everyone is. I'll just say one more thing. There's a Rebbe chat that I'm in of, I don't want to call anyone out, but it's a Rebbe chat that I'm in, and there was a debate going on with Baruch Hashem, about different perspectives on chinuch, how should we do this? And then almost, I seem like many conversations ends, someone said, why don't we bring in Rabbi Kalish, and Rabbi Kalish will weigh in on it. So we haven't brought in Rabbi Kalish yet to weigh in on that, but I think that just illustrates how many Rabbeim are considered themselves as Talmidim of Rabbi, and like so many of us are, so thank you so much for making the time. Rabbi really was, to speak to the shul twice is such a kavod for us, so thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thank you. I want to thank Rabbi Kamenetsky for having me and thank everybody for coming. Louder, you're right. I appreciate Rabbi Kamenetsky a lot. He's somebody who's a kiddush shamayim. He's a sincere person, and this shul is a beautiful place, and the community is a beautiful community of people striving and growing. I love coming here. Avi Baila and I have been here a few times. There's sincerity, there's bikush. There's bikush here of people that are growing, of families, of B'nai Torah, boys and girls that are seeking Hashem, that are growing. There's tremendous. I'm friends with Yosef now for a few years. The sincerity of people, authentic people, growing and pushing to grow and like fighting for something. You could feel it and experience it. So it's an honor to be here. I don't like talking where I'm not, and the sugya on my mind most these days is my father. My father was nifter 2 months ago, and it's a sugya that's where my mind is in that sugya. When I daven in yeshiva, so on Monday and Thursdays, I don't like tirch de tzibura, was something that was very big by my father, very big. I remember a specific incident that he had a certain kula, and a person came up and was being very like chutzpahdik to my father, and was saying, "Why does the Rav do that? Why do you do that kula?" And he said, "Tircha de tzibura." The person like made away with it, machtavek, like okay, tircha de tzibura. I remember my father being very stern, how important a tzibur. You're not matriach a tzibur. And it was like something important to his tzibur and the comfort of the tzibur, and that's an attitude of caring about a tzibur. So when I daven, I try not looking to do anything funny or anything. I want to try to go the right speeds, that nobody should be held up. It should be a good minyan. It should be smooth, comfortable. I really feel badly, even davening for the Amud, all the tefillas. If I would hear somebody davening all the tefillas, and maybe in Avel shouldn't daven all the tefillas. It's a lot for people. Like to hear the same voice. I want to shoot the guy. Every davening, maybe somebody has like a gorgeous voice. In yeshiva, I've been davening Shachris and Mincha. Ma'ariv, I daven elsewhere, but I'm there Shachris and Mincha. And I really would even stop more often. The guys have been incredibly nice. No, keep davening. We like it. We're behind you. The tzidkus and chesed, be'emes. Unless the mamish fooling me, I don't think so. They seem to be going along and fine. But what I'm moved to do since my father's patira is I like the words that have just jumped out. The words before we put away the Sifrei Torah. Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem tayrasi al tazovu. Eitz chayim ilu machzikim ba b'samchem usha dracheh darchei noyam v'chol nesivay seah shalom had been like they just gripped me a lot. I want to talk about a little bit about these words for a few minutes. I don't know how long I'm going to do this. Well, really now the guys are just doing it. I thought maybe by Shloshim I should stop. The guys are not stopping. We put away the Sifrei Torah we've been singing. Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem. Those words have jumped out at me, and I want to talk about those words. Beautiful psukim. Should go out of order. Why we say them out of order, there's Torah to think about. But I want to talk about those words. Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem, tayrasi al tazovu. And Hashem says, Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem. I've given you a good deal. We'll translate the word lekach similar to a mekach. And Hashem says, thanks to Hashem says, Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem. I've given you a good deal. Good, this is good merchant, it's a good mekach, it's a good transaction. Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem. It's a good transaction. Now, the Gemara says, the Gemara is bothered by the word pashtus, the Gemara brachas. We're learning brachas in yeshiva. Abi and I are learning Masechta brachas. And the Gemara is bothered by that why Torah, it's called, there's like a contradiction here. Hashem says, Nasati lachem. I gave it to you, it's a gift. So why does he call it a mekach, a transaction? Is it a gift or a transaction? There's something going on here. If it's ki lekach toiv, so macharti lachem, so I sold to you. What's nasati? As much as it's a transaction, so then it's a gift. Now the pashtus of the Gemara is that it's a transaction. And oibazoi, what shver is what he is saying, nasati, I gave it. Hashem didn't give it to us, he sold it to us. Now why it's called a transaction, it's interesting. Shabbos Kodesh is called a matana. I suspect Shabbos is just delightful. You don't have to work on it. Shabbos is delightful. There's no amelus in order. Well, if you work hard, Shabbos you could vibe and feel it. Shabbos is beautiful. Somebody just appreciate, just to sit shalashudas and sing, you did nefesh. Shabbos is wonderful. It's not like something you have to work hard to get. It's a matana. Torah is a transaction. There's amelus. There's a cost and a price. It's not just here it is and it's beautiful. It's tchilas seimar v'soifei matu, Chazal say. It starts bitter and ends sweet. There's work. To acquire Torah's nickness b'yisurim, Torah's nickness b'memches dvarim, you have to buy it. It's a sale. It's not just a gift, here it is. It's the possibility to buy it. Now why does it say nasati, the Gemara? I gave it to you. I sold it to you. I didn't give it. It's not free. So the Gemara asks this kasha. Says the Gemara that normally when a seller sells something, so the seller is very sad. Now is that true? It says normally the derech is when a seller sells something, the seller's sad. That's interesting. Because where did you eat tonight, Davi? You didn't go to eat. You bought food at Kosher World? Pizza. Was the seller upset he sold the pizza? A guy sells pizza. It's not like sitting all sad you took the pizza. So Be'emes, the Gemara says that normally a seller is sad. Is that so that normally a seller is sad? People buy all the time. Now, there are items people are sad. There's such a thing. But to say normally people are sad is a chiddush, the derech. I wonder, I don't know Pshat in the Gemara, that normally, I wonder that Hashem, after he sells it to us, says, Tayrasi al tazoiv, don't forsake my Torah. What does he call it? His. He sold it to us. So it means an item that's precious to the seller, he's very sad to sell it. If you buy a car from an older person who stops driving, very emotional, older person stops driving, my car is very precious to me, my van. goes on tons of shidduchim from guys, from my kids. The car has gone to many Wolfpack games. It goes to good places. It's gone to all different geschmacka places. It goes to good places. Very precious car. Very important. Somebody buys an item that's precious to you. When we bought the campus for the yeshiva, there was an old guy, I don't think he was a Yid, and he cared a lot about the campus. And it boiled down to two people. There was a Muslim group. He said like a racist comment about Islam. I don't try not to say bad about anybody. He assumed they're going to do bad things. And he sold it to us for cheaper. He said, and he cared. He came years later to help us out for a number of years, to help us with the property. It mattered a lot to him. And he cared what would be done with his property. And there are important items people have that they care a lot about. And Hashem says about Torah, Ki lekach toiv nasati lechem. There's a very good deal. I love my Torah. I value the Torah. And nasati, I gave it, says the Gemara. Normally when somebody gives a gift, so normally they're sad to part with it. Here it says nasati because I gave it ba'ayin yafa. I'm excited that you have it. I actually trust you. I trust you. Ki lekach toiv nasati lechem. I gave a good deal. Nasati, I gave it. The reason it doesn't say I sold it is because it has the ayin yafa of an asina. Normally you sell it as an atzvus. There's a sadness to part with this. That guy who sold us his property was sad to part with the property. I know a person who bought it from a man retired and sold his business. Didn't want to part with his business. He gave it, he had it retired, but it meant a lot to him. It was his, he built it up from scratch, so he cared a lot about it. But the Torah says here, it says, Nasati lochem zbayin yafa. When you give a matana, you're just happy, obviously love the person and want them to have it. So Agam Hashem Kaviyachol sold us Torah. There's Kinyanei Torah. There's Amelus. There's, so to speak, a price. It's a business transaction, so to speak. But Nasati, I gave it ba'ayin yafa because I'm confident you're going to treat it right. It's precious, the Torah. Treat it right. Be gentle with it. Care about it. I gave this to you and take good care of it. Tairasi al tazayvu, don't forsake my Torah. The obligation of a Yid to respect Torah, to value Torah, to care about Torah. I'm not here to say a eulogy. I am thinking about my parents. And my father grew up. My father was an American kid. He grew up in a very modern, yeshiva. There were no yeshiva guys. There were very few yeshiva guys in the country. And he grew up in a mixed school. Wonderful, beautiful Yid, trying to grow. And my mom was a very nice girl. She went to Central, a beautiful high school that people grow in. My mom went to Central. And my parents decided, and their communities were wonderful communities. Yidden are amazing. But they didn't know tons about Torah, about learning Torah, living Torah. And my parents made a decision to care about Torah. They decided to care about Torah. And they spent a lifetime. My father taught Torah. The respect he had for people learning Torah, the kavod at Torah. The Gemara Megillah says, Avi, that kavod at Torah trumps limud at Torah. Kavod at Torah is more important than learning Torah. And my father had a tremendous kavod at Torah. People would come to shiurim and they would sleep. They would fall asleep. He had people coming. He had such a respect to Yidden coming and learning. Every level, people would ask, like funny kashas. There were brilliant people. Ask, like incredible. I remember he said a Rambam shir for 10 years. It was Lo Yu'umin the shir. This was the most glorious shir I ever heard my father say. For 10 years, he said a Rambam shir, Be'iyun Rav, Arsa Meyachs, Lamdus, wild. And there were people there that were Ga'ainim. I remember some of the Yidden there, Ga'ainim. And then there were simple people. And sometimes people would ask, in the middle of this like peace from heaven, I would ask, it was complete serious dignity. A Yid's learning Torah. I remember as a youngster wondering on sometimes he said 2 daf yomis a day. He was a busy person who loved learning. Some people, I told the Bach, I'll tell you something funny. I'm trying to learn a little first Seder. It's murder. I haven't sat and learned the first Seder in years. I learn a few minutes, I'm exhausted. Reb Leichter, who was a mashgiach in Eretz Yisrael, described he was a mashgiach in Hebron. And then he retired, and he tried to go back to Koil. He said after day one of learning, he was like collapsing. In the middle of Seder, he says to the Chabru, so do you have any problems? Like, share a problem with me. Like, could you tell me something like that? It's interesting, sitting, trying to learn a first Seder is very hard. Guys look like any Rebbe could just all of a sudden sit and learn. You're teaching Torah, you're involved in other aspects. It's not so easy. I'm trying to learn a half of a first Seder and I'm struggling. Mightily trying to, it's a lot of strength and koiches and folks. I work hard. There's amelus and everything. It's a different, the amelus of Limud Torah is exhausting, and the focus and the detail, staying strong and staying in the moment, learning Torah, present. It's beautiful, and it has to be by me in order to do it. I'm grappling with it now. The only ways I have to be me. I have to ask my type of questions, and I have to I can't be strained and stressed. It has to be comfortable, and the questions have to be very personal. It has to be personal. There's ways each of us grapple. My father was somebody who learned all day and all night. I breathed, he learned. To teach wasn't his way in Lul. He learned. It was a chiddush. He loved teaching. He would teach Torah. He loved teaching Torah. But he would learning Yom and V'layla. I would wonder as a youngster, seeing people in the shir, and you saw people sleeping, I wonder who are you saying? There were always ge'onim and brilliant, but he respected every single yid, a yid and Torah. A yid coming to learn Torah, a yid learning divrei Torah, was very, very, very serious and valued and important. The kavod Torah that was displayed of a yid learning. A yid came to Shiva and said to me, he said, for 7 years I slept through your father's daf yomi. I saw a yid like this. Now it sounds funny, 7 years. The guy said to me, he said, 7 years I slept through your father. I was there. He said, I slept for 7. He said, then I learned Shas twice by your father, and I learned Shas. But the 7 years was serious. A yid's coming to learn Torah. A yid's coming. It's very heavy and serious. A yid's learning Torah. A yid's connecting to Torah. The serious, ki lekach toiv nasati lachem. I gave you something precious. Torasi al tazovu. Take good care of Hashem's Torah. Value it. Value a yid learning Torah. Each yid has a right. My father appreciates. My Rasha Kilas Yaakov. Chazal say that if you don't teach somebody Torah, it's Geisla, you're a Ganib, you stole from him. Belongs to Am Yisrael. It's a right of Klal Yisrael. It's a right of every single yid to learn Torah. And each yid who learns should learn with a cheshek and a chayus and a loyalty. This is our precious Torah. My parents had a value for Torah and protect Torah and studied and taught Torah. Ki lekach toiv. That's one thing I wanted to share with everybody. The second thing I wanted to share with everybody in these psukim is the Racheh Darchei Noyam B'chol Nisivei Seah Shalom. I want to say two things with those words. The Racheh Darchei Noyam. The paths of Torah Darchei Noyam are ways of sweetness. I want to talk about that in a few minutes. V'chol Nisivei Seah Shalom, and all its paths are peaceful. I want to say like this: what's the difference between a derech and an sieve? My suspicion is that an sieve is a more specific path. A derech is the larger road, and a sieve is a more specific path. And there are ayim panim l'Torah. There are many ways to learn Torah, many yeshivas, many styles of Torah. And what I saw in my father's Kol Nesivai Seah Shalom, a tremendous respect for all the different ways of learning, all the different people that were learning. In my house, Rav Ovadia Yosef was the respect to Rabbi, he learns Torah, he's a Talmud Chacham. That was like Kodesh Kadashim, Rabbi Yosef. There were Chassidish Yidden. My father was very Litvish, very. And he didn't learn Chassidish Svarim, and he wasn't into most of his life Chassidish Maisim, even though we come from Chassidim, it's our roots. But my father grew up in yeshivas, and he didn't know his Chassidish past, and he was Litvish. The Chassidish Yidden he would support. My father raised millions of dollars for tzedakah, and he would support. He would tell me on Yidden, and he was close. He was best when he learns Torah. All different types of Yidden. Mizrahi, I say the names, Chassidish, these are all like names that make no difference. Yidden learned Torah. And he had all different Yidden that he was machshiv, that he celebrated, that were chashiv, chol nesivay shalom, all the paths of Torah, and there are many paths, but shalom means there's space for all. Shalom means that shalom doesn't just mean people don't fight. I have seen places people don't fight, but there's no shalom. Shalom means peace, but it also means whole. It means there's room. Shalom's, we speak about shalom bayis. You could have a couple that never fights and there's no shalom bayis. Either she just doesn't ever say anything and gives in to him, or he gives in to her. That's not. Shalom bayis is that it's a broad home and there's room for him and her. There's room for diversity. That's shalom bayis. Chol nesivay shalom means all the paths of Torah's shalom. Then all the different mahalchim and types and kinds. There's tremendous, tremendous room. I was walking as a youngster. I was walking with my father to shul, and an old man stopped my father and he said, "I don't get God." I remember he was an angry guy. He said, I remember he said, "I don't get God." He said, "It's all God's fault." He says to my father, "It's all God's fault." I was a little kid, I was 12 or 13. What's God's fault? It's all God's fault. He said that we have machlokes in Klal Yisrael because he made 12 shvatim. He said, what's the 12 shvatim? Different tchunos, different types. We should come from one shape. It's all God's fault. That's what the Yid said to my father. So after the Yid ranted for a while, I had two questions for my father. Question one is, Abba, why didn't you answer him? It struck me that my father didn't answer the Yid. So it struck me that he didn't answer him. And I asked my father, why didn't you answer, and what's the answer? I had two questions for my father. So he said, why I didn't answer is the Yid didn't want an answer. He was saying his piece, he didn't want an answer. He wanted to blame Hashem. He wasn't looking for an answer. So I remember I was 12 or 13. It's more than 10 years ago. And I remember he said that he didn't want an answer, so he didn't give an answer. I found that interesting. And I remember my father, so I said, what is the answer, Abba? And he said that there are many drachim. Hashem wanted it that way. And there's room for many drachim, and he lived like that. Kol nesivay shalom. There was room for many different drachim. A person learns as ayim panim l'Torah, and there was space for different types of learners, different learners. There was space. My father definitely had shittas. I was there shortly before his p'tir. He's talking to one of my sons in front of me. He had shittas, how to learn. He said, but I don't care anyway. He said, I speak my shitta and I could be strong about it. But a person learns Torah. There's all different ways to learn Torah. I respect the person learns Torah. Kol nesivay shalom. There's shalom, there's space for all different types. He respected the beginner learning who didn't understand. There was a respect for that and a place for that and a value for that person. Then this type of learning, that type of learning, this community, that community, kol nesivay, all its paths are shalom. There's space in the world of Torah for a wide space for all different type of learners. I once heard from Rabbi Shlita, his nephew was here, Morty came with me, and I once heard from Rabbi from your uncle, Muncie Gain. I once heard him say, he was talking about the Tanur Shalach Sinai, and he was talking about the Sugi and Bab Metzia, but he said over a Yerushalmi. I looked for it at the time, I didn't find it, but Rabbi says it's there. He said that a rabbim and a yachid, halacha kerabbim, is only if the rabbim pays attention to the yachid. If they ignore the yachid, they don't have a din of a rabbim. Learning to respect the Yachid, Kol Nesivay Seh Shalom. Learning to understand the Yachid. We have to learn to respect the Yachid. He's allowed to be a Das Yachid. And it's true, Rabbin v'Yachid, Halacha K'Rabbin, but it has to be, there's a space. He said there's no din Rabbin if you don't give cover to the Yachid. If you don't respect the Yachid, listen to the Yachid, let the Yachid be a Yachid. It's a Yachid, okay, but say that we're allowed to stark disagree, but they're allowed to be a Yachid. It's only halacha k'rabbim, he said, when the rabbin pay attention to the Yachid, respect the Yachid, hear the Yachid out. We have to learn how to let for various opinions. It's such an interesting thing, because we're allowed to stark hold of our daya, strongly and powerfully. There's a line in Rabbi Yisrael Salanter who says in learning to be machzik kol ois svarasei, to hold on with all your strength to your svara, and yet to allow for diversity of opinions, for many opinions. There's an art to that. We have a rabbi, but somebody has a different opinion, so let it be and let them hear. Somebody who's mivakesh emes is saying something. Kol nesivay seh shalom. The ways of the Torah are shalom. It's fascinating. La halacha. David, you know this halacha? If a guy commits a murder and the entire Sanhedrin says he's guilty, you know what the halacha is? He's not chayiv misa. Because there's no clarity. There's nobody disagreed. That's the halacha. If the entire Sanhedrin says he's guilty, picture a case, a guy murders in front of the court of Sanhedrin, in front of 70. All 70 say guilty, we saw him murder. He's not chayiv misa. You need one person to say, no, he was acting in self-defense. If there's no other opinion, you don't get clarity. There's no conversation. Nobody stood up for another side. No. All of us know with Rabbi Yochanan's chavrusa was Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan's chavrusa was Reish Lakish. And when Reish Lakish was nifter, Rabbi Yochanan went crazy. This powerful Rabbi Yochanan, who was unbelievably strong. I always think of the Rabbi Yochanan who was Menachem Avel. He lost 10 children. Shem Yerachem. He would hold the bone, Dain Garma Dasira Bir. This is the son of my 10th. This is the bone of my 10th son. He lost 10 children. Hashem Yerachem. Strong man. His chavrusa was nifter. He lost his mind. And they got Rabbi Yochanan a new chavrusa, but he said, my new chavrusa agrees with me. Reish Lakish always argued on me. And he went crazy, and ultimately the Chacham were mispal Rabbi Yochanan should be nifter, and we lost Rabbi Yochanan. He didn't have a chavrus who argued. Now, by the way, so just get somebody to argue on him. Of course, you don't argue l'shem arguing. Reish Lakish was like the perfect foil, so to speak. His mindset, the best chavrus I ever had was Avram Brest. I had many illustrious chavrusas. The best one I ever had, I learned with for 6 years, because we don't agree on anything. He's like it's interesting, even from young I had Hasidish and Atiyas. I'll tell you a funny story that happened with him. We once went to a Suda. We argued the whole night about this. We went for a Suda. This is the Chassidish side of me before I knew how Chassidish I was. We went to a Suda for Friday night in Eretz Yisrael. This guy is from the biggest masmidim in the world. That's for another story. He's a masmid nifla. But he went to a Suda, it's a story for itself. And after the story, I was amazed by the Yid's Kiddush. So I said, my dream, the Yid made, I love Kiddush, my favorite thing. This Yid made a Kiddush. Wow, it was a Kiddush of mine. It's Kiddush. He was crying, it was amazing. So I said, did you ever hear a Kiddush like that in your life? So my friend, I wanted to hurt him. My friend says, yes, Mechilim, but that's just what I felt. My friend says to me, I don't know if we were Yaitse. You heard the way he said the words, and he was worried if we were Yaitse. What a killjoy. It's guys like this who turned me off from religion. He's worried if I'm Yaitse. The guy's crying. It was the nicest Kiddush I ever heard in my life. I'm like becoming frum on the spot. He's worried if we're Yaitse. The way is Havara, like, what's wrong with you? We argued for hours. He was worried that he wasn't Yaitse Kiddush. Like hello, the guy made us. So we fought about it. You see my roots of Hasidus, I was like amazed by the Kiddush, and this Chaber, we saw things very different. He was worried if we were Yaitse. Okay, I hear. Lemaisa was an excellent chavrusa because Rabbi Yochanan said that because Reish Lakish sees things different than Mirav Chashmaitza, the sugya gets expansive. The sugya gets expansive because he sees things different. Calls him out. I learned with Avi, he calls me out, not glat. Not what you're saying, it's not the pshat. So it expands the sugya, Rav Chashmaitza. When two people see it different, there's an expansive sugya of discussion, of seeing, and each one learns new things and new ideas. And because Reish Lakish argued on Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Chashmaitza, the sugya expanded. He said, the new Chavrus agrees with me, it's a dead end. There's no expansion of the sugya, you don't get. Right, Kamenetsky is the Rav of this shul. Every shul has the crew that are there's many attitudes in a shul, but in any good shul, there's two attitudes. There's the quiet by davening people. On time, we should start on time, we're ending too late. Like the efficiency of the minyan, that's a whole chevra. And then there's the chevra that wants a good minyan. It should be geschmack, the kiddush should be nice, it should be warm. When we start, who cares? When we finish, there should be warm and geschmack and chayos and friendly and you should have a good gabbai who's geschmack when he calls people up. It should have a chayos, the shul, some good jokes, geschmack, there's a happy place. Both guys are necessary. How you survive in a shul, but it's tragic a shul only has one type. There's no Rav Chashmaitza. You need the guys without the guys. I'm not going to tell you which way I fall. You'll never guess. But without the guys, the timely guys, I can't even imagine, what time davening would start. Without them, they keep there's a balance they keep. But if you have a shul just of that, Hashem Yirachem, you need both types, and you need to incorporate Rav Chashmaitza. It's silly not to, in a marriage, there's a Rav Chashmaitza of different ways. That's the spitz of Shalom. Chol Nesivai Seh Shalom, the paths of Torah, the unique, specific. We were always good with this Klal Yisrael. What this guy said, we always had 12 Shvatim. It's beautiful that they're different dayos and shetos, learning how to have yechidim and people who went against the rabbi, learning how to incorporate all different shetos. We're seeing in Am Yisrael a kibbutz galius today. We're seeing people learn Litvisha places, learn Chassidish Svarim. This is not a cute thing that I'm my father's son. I am my father. I come from my father. What I have is all from him, and I'm learning Chassidish Svarim. I learned Rav Levi Yitzchak, the Barditch of Svarim. My Rebbe was like a misnagid. I come from my Rebbe. He was a misnagid. He was a misnagid. Literally, he was nervous in Chassidim. I'm Chassidish. It's not a kasha. It's kibbutz golis. See, ask how does it happen? I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just trying to serve Hashem. And if a sefer talks here, so then I learn it. That's my Rebbe would want me to do. But this kibbutz pashut by me. This is kibbutz golius. We're learning all different svarim. People are seeing kol tfutzes Yisrael. All different svarim and minhagim are being mixed. It's interesting, minhagim. In Avelus, about 90% are minhagim. So I'm like studying minhagim. Minhagim are getting, Klal Yisrael, we lived separate places. Nobody knew about each other. Go to shuls now, it's so interesting with tefillin, how to work it out in a shul. How many people are on Cholamayid wear tefillin, don't? Do you put who goes up there? The tefillin guys, the non-tefillin guys, there's kibbutz golius. This is not an accident. Hashem did this, that this Pashat, we're meeting, Klal Yisrael's meeting, we're coming together. What has to be there is a respect and a space and appreciation for different views. Learning how to respect the Das Yachid. During COVID, my father held stark to daven with minyanim, stark. My father's not a fighter. He wasn't like a mucham. He was an ish shalom. He held to daven with a minyan. That's what he held stark. And he was makbid chumras of distancing like nobody's business, but he held to daven with a minyan. It got him in trouble, and I'm not coming opinions. I'm not political at all, and it wasn't easy for the kids. My father got death threats, people threatening to beat him up, put in chayrim, and I'm not coming what we should do. I'm coming that we have to be mechazik. By the way, I saw at the end that each person was mechabit him, and he was mechabit people who saw things different. But I am saying that we have to learn to respect the das yachid. There's a rabbim, and there's a right to be a rabbim, and a right for psak, and a right to come out. But learning how to work, there's a way how to work with a yachid. There's a shammai. It's fascinating to me that all of us learn shammai when we learn. What are we learning? Shammai. He was outvoted. He's a yachid. And there's an emes to Shammai. It says Mashiach times we paskin like Shammai. There's something tif to Shammai. There's an emes to Shammai. There's an emes to Hillel. When we learn to incorporate all the views in a sugya, kol nesivayisei shalim, all the unique paths of Torah, and I saw that very, very stark in my father. I want to say at the beginning, drachei darchei noyam, that the ways of Torah are sweet. Here you have somebody who's a wild masmid, wild. And the tendency is somebody who's like impatient with people. And he was a wild masmid till the last days, a wild masmid. Filled. Somebody who, while he was unconscious, was saying Gemaras. In his sleep, he would say Gemaras. My mother asked, what does this Gemara mean? What is that? When I was with him and he was getting chemo, the guy next to me said, he just said a Gemara, isn't he out cold? I said, yeah, he's learning. I don't know what to tell you. He was holding Torah, he was holding in Torah. But Drachei Darchei Noyam, the ways of Torah are sweet. The patience, the kindness, the sweetness to other people, the exact, not sharp, not loving people, encouraging. My father had a tremendous appreciation for singers and jokesters. If you were funny, you were Kodesh Kadashim by my tata, and if somebody sang, and he said to us, they make Yidden happy. That was like a value. A singer by him, I'll tell you a Maisa, he was Mechabed, the singer, Lipa Schmelzer. He sings for Yidden. Makes Yidden happy. That's like Kodesh Kadashim. He was coming off the Gemara Tainis that a Ben Olam Abba is a happy person, Sameach Yidden. Makes Yidden happy. Kodesh Kadashim. I brought Lipa Schmelzer to my camp. Aryeh Weiss brought Lipa Schmelzer to the camp. So he came to sing in my camp. In our camp, he came to sing. Were you there, Mo, when he came to sing? So they asked him to speak. That before you sing, speak. And in his speech, he said, if you're angry at somebody, you have to be Michael. My father said, somebody sings for you, and it wasn't joking. He sings for you, and he makes you nap. He said to me, Michael, he said to me, I was sitting next to my tata, Kol Torah Kula Be'iyun. And a guy came who sings a beautiful Yid, but he makes Yid happy. He said, you have to be Michael, people. My father turned to me and he said, Daniel, I'm upset at somebody for a long time. I'm going to be Michael. That's it. At the Shiva, a Yid walks into Shiva and said, me and your father were close friends. And he said, I'll tell you the story. Your father was upset that we had a Maisa, but your father called me up and we worked it out because he said, Lipa Schmelzer told me he has to be Michael. I was there. I brought my father to the Lipa Schmelzer, and at the Shiva, we were good friends. Lipa Schmelzer said, somebody, it's not a chiddush to like Reb Lipa. I'm sure he's a beautiful, I know him a little bit, beautiful Yid. Somebody's Misameach Yidden. That was like a value in the home. Make Yidden happy. Somebody told good jokes. It was like Kodesh Kadashim, the holiest people. They make Yidden happy. They make Yidden smile. It was a big value in the home. Drachei Darchei Noyam, the ways of Torah are sweet. He was a big machmir for himself. Big. Very serious. Kept things stark, unbending, zero, like very stark. For other people, make a lenient, easygoing, understanding like crazy. It's interesting. He once gathered the tzibur. I was at a gathering, and he wanted to speak, to be mechazik coming to Shuir. So he gave like a speech, like he could speak, to be mechazik coming to Shuir. He says to the chevra, if it's hard for your wife, I don't want to see you there. And he starts saying, like, make sure it's good for your wife. If it's hard for you to go, you're not allowed to come to the shir. Make sure. I I said, look, you ruined your whole speech. You gave like an excuse. What? He said, what do you mean? I don't want anybody coming and running to Torah and running over their wives. The ways of the Torah are sweet. Never runs over anybody. Torah is megadol, it's miraim, it never runs over anybody. And I saw that here was like a speech about Torah. And here he was mechazik. In general, he spoke a lot about Shalom Bayis. A lot. He was mechazik Shalom Bayis. I'm very into Gedolim books, and I like reading the last few hours of Tzaddikim's life. I'm fascinated. Tzaddikim they have all different arenas they function in. I'm always curious who gets the last few hours with a tzaddik, amongst other things. My father was in the hospital sick. He was the youngest person I knew, 79. He was a kid. His schedule, I don't have 100th of my father's schedule. Crazy and not stopping. Till the last few weeks, the Gvura Lo Ye'uman. He was a Rosh Kollel, he was the Rosh Yeshiva of a Sephardi Yeshiva. He was saying a Daf Yomi every day, learning a 7 blot every day, writing a Sefer on all of Shas. He was doing chesed, running families. Lo Ye'uman. It's not normal, every day, non-stop. Lo Ye'uman, like a young kid, like a little kid. The last couple of weeks, he was sick for a couple of weeks. We were taking turns being with my father. We took turns being with my father, and we had children and grandchildren. Through the night, my mother should have many years, Sadekis, and they were a team. But at night, we didn't want my mother up the whole night. She's not a youngster. She has young koiches. But we didn't want her up the whole night. She should sleep, so she has koiches to be with my father through the night. But we stayed up all night. So we had young people. We had children, grandchildren. We would be up. Came for 7, 8, 9 days. We took turns. My father never said a word. Thanked each person who was there. He was in and out, this world, the next. Came Friday out of no place. He says to us, Friday, and we thought that things were getting a little better. We thought maybe even Sunday or Monday get out of the hospital. And Friday morning, my father says to the family, tonight Ima will be with me. So my mother is very logical. She said, but just maybe the medicine's getting to him. I'm not going to be there. She would do anything for him. She said, I'm going to sleep. This way I could be with him Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I got on the phone with my father, and I asked Abba, maybe we'll get one of the children. He said, Daniel, Ima will be with me. And I saw Ima will be with me. So the last thing I ever said to my father, I promise you Ima will be with you tonight. He said, Daniel, you understand me? Good Shabbos. The last words till Tchias HaMesim that I heard from my father. Daniel, you understand me? Good Shabbos. So I called my mother and we spoke. The halach is, I said, Ima is Abba Kalish yesh sakana. Yes. Kalish yesh sakana. Even if it's frivolous what he's asking you, do it. This Abba wants you. So my mother was there the last night. That morning, 6 a.m, he went into septic shop. He was unconscious. He was never conscious again. The last night on this, while he was conscious with my mother, they sang Kari Baim together. He said Elekai Neshama 5 times. My mama. He told her a Gemara that she doesn't want to teach us yet. He taught her a Gemara, and then he left. But he said, my wife will be. And the last sugi he taught was Shalom Bayis. They lived Shalom Bayis, a team. The ways of the Torah are sweet. There's a person pushing Limud Torah, not if it will be bad for your wife. Make sure it's not bad for your wife. Shalom Bayis, caring about others, a space for others, making sure we're not running over anybody. The ways of the Torah are sweet. Making sure learning Torah is just pleasant for others, never being machmir. Tircha de tzibura. For the tzibur is so makbid, the tzibur should be comfortable, the tzibur should be happy, never making it uncomfortable for another person. It's interesting, it is Kollel, the younger light. My father was very time conscious. So guys in the Kollel learned the trick. If a guy was late, my father, he liked on time. He was working with me all my life to get, how he had a son like me is a big kasha. He was very time conscious, but I'm going to work on myself. But the guys in the Kollel said if you were late, you knew an easy way out. If you said my wife, and if you ever wanted to miss, my father didn't miss, there was no such thing. If you ever wanted to miss a week, a month, a year, you say, my wife needs, go! Your wife needs, go. Run. I'll see you next year. You're taking care of your wife. If you ever, all the younger light told me, if you ever wanted to miss, you said your wife needs to go to, the guy told me he wanted to go to Florida. He said, I didn't know what to do. I'm going to say, I'm going to fly. So my wife, your wife needs to fly to run. I'll pay for the ticket. Like the mishpacha, shalom bayis. The ways of the Torah are sweet. The Torah acknowledges people. The Torah, a semin always. If somebody's learning, if somebody engages Torah, and it's hurting another, it's not Torah they're studying. It's not Torah they're living. It's wrong. The Gemara is looking what men. The Torah never says in Esther, it says Pri-Eitz Hadar. And the Gemara is looking, and it describes one min, but it says it cuts the hand. Can't be that. The Torah doesn't hurt. It doesn't harm. It picks up. And I saw somebody, a guy came to Shiva, and he said, till I met your father, I couldn't stand masmidim. They were like just harsh people, rough around. He said, here's a masmid. It was delicious. A time for people, had a smile and a lightness. So I want to say to all the B'nai Torah, let us learn Torah, but let us embody the values of Torah, the sweet ways of Torah, that never truck somebody, never run over somebody, but recognize somebody, that I'm a Roimim and Megadol people. If the Yom doesn't mind if we sing Kilekach Toiv together. But I was going to get to the third pasuk, but that would be, if I'm speaking about my tatan to go overtime, we definitely wouldn't be happy. So let's sing these beautiful words. Ki lekach toiv nasad lechem. Let's be mechazik. We have a precious gift, the Torah. Treat it nicely. Treat it nicely. Learn it. Teach it with dignity. Respect it. Respect Torah. Respect your own limud Torah. Respect somebody else's limud Torah. Share the Torah. It's precious. Nasati, I gave it by in Yafa because I know Klal Yisrael, you'll treat it properly. So let's be mechazik kavod Torah. Kavod Torah, I mean our own learning. Our own learning. Equally important. The Gemara says more important than learning Torah is kavod Torah. Our own learning, to learn with kavod, to respect. If we're learning less minutes, but with a dignity, it's valuable, it's precious, with a simcha, that's dignified. Somebody else's Torah, respecting somebody else's learning. A yid's learning Torah, appreciate it, it's beautiful. A yid learning Torah, kavod Torah, celebrating Torah. That's one thing I wanted to share. And to make sure that our learning doesn't cost other people, not our wives, not our friends. Our frumkeit doesn't cost, it uplifts somebody else, it doesn't hurt somebody else. The frummer we are, the more somebody should be respected and celebrated. The Gemara says in the Darim that Talmidei Chacham's kids are not Talmidei Chachamim. The Gemara says often because they call people Chamayrim. It's always the danger of steiging as you look down at somebody else. And if it means your kids aren't Talmidei Chacham, it means you don't really have it. And because they call people chamarim, the danger of steiging is if it's used as a tool to look down at somebody that isn't Torah. Torah is that which uplifts others. Others in the presence of a learner are encouraged, are lifted up, are precious. That's Torah. I started telling the nurse, that you're in the presence of a big person. She like waved me away. You think I'm stupid? I see what I see. It's uplifting, a thank you, an appreciation. There was so much gratitude. Each person who came in just appreciated. The ways of the Torah are sweet. The Chol Nesivai Seh Shalom is make sure that there's room for the Yachid, for the different opinion, for the other opinion who sees it, for that guy who says to you, maybe we weren't Yaitze Kiddush, don't kill him and respect him. And I learn from him. I try to be Yaitze Kiddush also, but I still want to enjoy Kiddush. But you make sure his Shita also. Chol Nesivai Seh Shalom. There's space for different views. There's space even for the Das Yachid. Iki lekach tov nosati lachem oitoidosi yalta zoivu yetzchak Lamachazikebo Heves Thank you to everybody for coming out. Thank you, Rabbi Kamenetsky, for having me. Have an excellent night. Great pleasure. Thank you.
We're also going to dive in Myers now.
Perfect. Let's do that.